This is a dual ramble. Let's go.
Bebop.
Mighty Lark, how are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you, El Santos?
We had quite the journey with our audio. It was so I am just happy to hear your voice.
Yeah, I'm always happy to hear your voice, and I feel like an audio warrior.
There you go. Well, cool, man.
Come out, hey!
Yeah, I always love these because I see so many other cool artists, and then to finally speak like not an emoji. Yeah, man. I am. Let's see. But yeah, so I'm gonna. I don't know. I had a lot of obstacles today, so we wanted to share some of your work. We could kind of. Let's see. Let me get acclimated here. I forget. I know you're on the East Coast.
Yeah, I
Right?
live in Maine.
Maine.
Yeah,
What part of Maine?
near Portland, so southern Maine.
Okay. Nice. I've been to Kennebunkport a
Yeah,
long time ago. It's
I
pretty up
used
there.
to work there. I worked at a gallery there, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
What did you do there?
uh, I sold primarily sculptures created by, oh, let me see if I can remember his name. It was Lyman Whitaker, I believe, and his studio was in Utah.
Yeah.
The fellow that owned it had been like traveling around, and he found these like wind sculptures. He's like, "Oh, I need to bring these back to Maine," and he had like an agreement with the artist, and he sold all of these like sculptures that moved with the wind, and they were admittedly pretty cool, but not anything that I wanted to do. But I was really good at selling
Yeah.
because I didn't try to sell them. I was just like, this one's kind of neat. I don't know.
You know, that is like selling is its own art. And I think many of us are reluctant to embrace it. I've um
It's
I've
easier
gotten
to sell
better
your
at it.
stuff.
What's that?
You do well with it.
Well, I do my best. It's well, you know, it's a necessity. We
Well, I guess let me rephrase. I think when I say that I think you do well with it, you put your stuff out enough that so that people can see it, and they say that you're supposed to show it more than once, etc. But like, it never comes off as like annoying, which
that's good to know.
I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like there's that weird line to kind of traverse. Like, where does it actually just kind of become annoying? Like, am I?
I'm very yeah, I'm very self-conscious about that because I see that,
Mhm.
you know. Even I still struggle with I have an email list, but I only like use it when there is a sale.
Yeah.
And even then I feel weird about like doing that. Um but yeah,
And
so
yet,
I'm
why do we feel so weird about doing things like that when, you know, the colleges that I went to send out an email every like 2.5 months, like, hey, did you know it's that time of year that you should be giving us some money again?
everyone yeah, other
Like,
people are not shy about it. I think it's just the idea that, you know, like I just want to make art, man.
absolutely.
And so anything outside of that becomes uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and I guess that's how I approach it is if I just share what I'm doing, then, I am putting it out there for consideration. But I guess I don't have an expectation. I'm not telling people to click like, to subscribe, to. I don't think. I can't remember the last time I did something like that. Like once in a while, I'm like, well, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have children too. My son watches all of the YouTube videos on Minecraft and whatnot, and I feel myself cringing every time I hear somebody say, "And smash that like button."
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've seen a couple people talk about like starting a video like that, where it's like, before we get started, do this and that and that. And to me, as a viewer, I'm out.
Mhm.
I'll scrub a little, and if you're still talking, I'm out of there.
I
And
want to see
I don't,
content, man.
right? Yeah, give me. What are you about? And
Is this one of those 40s movies where they show the credits before the movie?
that would be cool, but that's not what they do. Like that's not the videos I'm seeing. Because then it would be really ornate, and you would get the mood of what's going to happen.
Yeah,
But all I'm getting is,
too.
if my content is valuable, I'm like, well, why don't you show it? And then, um, I'll smash whatever I like, but quit telling me what to do. It's like I have free choice here. Just, I'm battling here. Let's see. I'm trying to get into my Instagram because I didn't think about it. So you stream on here, and then I have, I think, El Santos Baseball and El Santos World going live.
Are you trying to get to my work?
I am. Can you
Oh,
get to your work? Oh yeah, just show us some.
okay. I got my sketchbook,
Yeah,
my dailies.
there you go.
They're lined up nicely.
So
So I do
as
one.
far
I
as
do one
what?
of these guys every day. They're not
Okay,
very.
so it's an everyday thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I
for
do
the
some more,
audio
and sometimes
audience, it's generally baseball cards
yeah,
in
it has
watercolor.
been for the last little bit. I don't know. I've been really fascinated by. I keep thinking about the fact that it's just a portrait,
Mhm.
and it's like I don't have to pay for this person to sit still for me for 5 hours. There,
Yes,
get it, man.
there. Right.
I love this
Well,
more than
I
Halo.
think of it as because I call it remixing these past
Yeah,
histories, these things that exist, but they exist in these alternate
I think this is the one
renditions.
you used, isn't it?
What's that?
This is the one you used in the imagery.
Yeah, it is.
I think.
See, I
Um,
grew up. Well, I was born in Chicago. Then we moved to Houston,
mhm.
and those were the colors. When I moved there, was that
Oop.
loud orange. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been doing those one a day?
Uh, so I started doing one a days in 2016. Um, but I started off with bugs that you would use to take fly fishing. So I did a year of that, and then in 2017 I did a pen and ink of a different species of mushroom every day, and then I did houseplants in 2017. Uh, and I've done every year except for 2020. I got divorced. I had started doing a series of my then wife every day, and that one crashed and burned mid-year because
Yeah.
you split. But I did plastic army men one every day. That one was really fun actually.
Yeah.
They make such like I don't like they're such abstracted portraits anyway, just because like the mold never gets them quite right, and like it was just
Yeah.
fun painting the intricacies, and like my son would leave them around, and I just find them someplace, be like, oh, this one today. So that was a really fun process. But yeah, last year I started doing the baseball cards. I started off with 88 Donruss, and I started off with 88 Donruss just because I liked that black and blue and red
Yeah, I
border.
remember those.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I had to stop doing those because I was way more interested in the pattern that was around the edge than I was in the actual portrait.
Yeah.
'Cause I,
That's fair.
I'm well, I'm always like I'm always finding patterns, and then I like get too wrapped up in the pattern. I guess maybe not too wrapped up in the pattern, but I'm really interested in the patterns. Like I'm the guy that's like staring at the rug in all of the elevators, you know?
What I mean, that's the appeal to me of doing the baseball cards. Any graphics is the layout,
Yeah. Love when
almost.
you do the 4 ups because those are like some of the best designs. And then like the black flag one, I chuckled for a week and a half over the black flag one because it was just like, Henry Rollins in a 4 up rookie baseball card. This is so
Oh,
spectacular.
the yeah, that was
But yeah,
that.
it is.
So those are like Pete Rose's year, and yeah, I keep making like I did Black Flag. I did
You did Van Halen too, right?
yeah,
The original
Goody
lineup.
Mob was one of my favorites. Like,
But yeah,
that
it's
was yeah. That's an example of like I would listen to something and think like everybody knew Goody Mob, and I was wrong. And when
I tucked Thelonious Monk into a 1985 Tops design one day with Monk instead of a sports team, and
there you
and I heard crickets. And I'm just like,
go.
not know Monk, or did they not like it? And that's I mean it's fine either way. I was just like curious, like, do we not know Monk? Because I feel like Monk is ubiquitous.
You're well, that's not
Like,
surprising.
but like
I know Monk.
I feel like so many of the people that follow me at this point are the sports cards people. I don't know if Monk is ubiquitous with the sports card community. If it was
Well,
GB, maybe they did be ubiquitous. I'm not sure.
the truth is, it doesn't matter
But it was fun. It was
because
really fun.
this is what you know. Uh, as far as an audience, this is what whoever's going to do right now. Like, and I still sometimes in conversation, I tell if somebody's collecting me, it's not like a pressure move, but it's like you were going through the stages of your one a days. That can happen at any time with any artist. He can suddenly start painting nothing but ballerinas for the rest of their life.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, you should have bought that other work before he lost his like sense of what he was doing. So,
I think Stuart Davis and when he was doing the landscapes, and then he's like, oh, I need to figure out how to paint, and he painted an egg beater like hundreds of times, and then he came out with the style that everybody knows.
yeah,
But this is just the same egg beater over and over again. Or like a
yeah,
Jasper Johns that like painted his paint can with the brushes in it like a million times. And
yeah.
then people tell you like, oh, you're so creative and you come up with such great ideas. I'm like, I just kind of keep drawing the same thing over and over again until I figure out what I'm supposed to do. I think other people did too. but but I
it,
mean, not to detract from people saying those things because those are those are well-intended comments, and I appreciate them, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I I putz around with a pencil in my hand, and I try to figure out what I'm doing, and it's fun. And I'm
Uh,
not afraid of boredom.
well, the the thing I don't find boring is I never know what's going to happen.
Mhm.
I don't know what I will get up and do today. You know, today I was thinking about like, us talking, and I started like doing some watercolor stuff. And
Man, I
then
loved it when you started doing some watercolors. I was so excited.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a medium I hadn't touched, but I like my acrylic, and I used to like my oils, but I don't know. A few people started talking about the health thing, and
Mhm. I
not that
I used to work solely in acrylics, so much so that my branded name was Lewis Acrylics. That was what I
nice.
went by. Um, and then it became not really such a useful name when I started doing, like, all watercolors because I had a toddler.
Yeah,
But then I'm like, branding is a funny thing, isn't it?
it credit. I won't mention her by name, but when I did El Santos, it was an ex girlfriend that said, "Make it world, and then you can do whatever you want." So
Yeah,
yeah, I got
yeah.
bitter there, but it's like give the devil its due.
Why did we both bring up exes here? I don't know why that happened.
Yeah,
I'm not sure,
well,
but oh
they
well.
they're in they're part of the history. So
It's true. It's true.
yeah, that was a long time ago. But but yeah, I was the I don't know. Del Santo's name is funny because what happened is I was working photography, like nightlife, and so it was my friend's company, and he would put your little tagline on the corner so that you got photo credit. And so it said photo by, and it said my name, Sergio Santos. And then I would just get bored. This was a monotonous thing we were doing. It was good for a little bit, but I was like, wow. And then so I changed it to image by Sergio Santos. And so we would upload these and send them to him, and he would publish them. And so he got kind of annoyed. He's like, "Why'd you do that?" And that's like, I don't know, feeding me fire. So the next one just had my name. And then he kept getting annoyed. And then it just had my last name. And then I'd run out of things, you know? And I was like, well, what if I put L in front of it? And then when I'd go out and shoot, people would sometimes call me. And then I was like, yeah. And then, yeah, I put world, and it worked.
Uh,
But yeah, the name came from me being a jackass.
well, I mean,
Where did Mighty Lark come from? Oh, shoot.
so I was
I,
there was a time period where I was involved in a bunch of group shows, and there was a gallery in California called The Hive, and they asked you to do an avatar. And so the Mighty Lark is I was obsessed with when I was little, Scooby Doo. I loved Scooby
nice.
cartoons. But my favorite episode of Scooby Doo was when they had the Globetrotters on. And
I love those. I was about to say,
I loved Meadowlark Lemon. And so I was like,
nice.
Mighty Lark sounds kind of like Meadowlark, and I like it. But I'm mighty, but I'm little. And it reminds me of Meadowlark Lemon. I'm gonna be the Mighty Lark.
Yeah, I probably will paint it soon. But did you know he had like a record?
No.
Oh my god! Let me see if I can bring it up
Oh,
and
that's
see if I don't like screw something up in the process. But I found a copy at a Goodwill, and I couldn't believe it. And I played it, and it was funky. Let me see. But the cover is really weird. Let's see. I'm trying to. I couldn't, and I can't. Yeah, I still can't believe I found that. Let me see. Oops. Try to share my screen here. See how that goes. Yeah. I'm still learning my way around this thing.
it's it's very versatile, which also means that it has a lot of doohickeys and who's and what.
a lot of things that can go seriously wrong, as we saw when you tried to when you
I'm just glad I can speak now.
when you tried to log it. Yeah, it was like it happened the last time too, and that's why I was like, let's get on early. No, it doesn't want to let me. Let me see. But you got to just take my word. I'm trying
I
to,
believe you. I'm gonna go look for it. Is what I'm gonna do.
but here, I will just describe it with words as best I can. Let me see. But yeah, it's called My Kids, and there's Metal Lark, and there's all these kids around him, and it's
Like
very
like Steve Garvey style.
70s. Yeah.
Is Steve Garvey that had all the kids?
Well, I don't believe. Well, I mean, they could be his kids, but they do not look.
Oh, oh,
Show it to the camera.
oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. it's it's amazing. Like,
Oh, that's spectacular.
yeah. So that one's on my list of album covers because I still can't believe it. I squeed like because yeah, Scooby Doo. I used to love those episodes. Like,
Oh,
and I thought every episode should have the Globetrotters.
the Globetrotters and the one that had Mama Cass in it was
Oh
spectacular.
yeah, that was such a great show. My kids were watching it for a little while, and it made me so happy.
Yes.
Like,
My
I
son
mean,
watched it for a very brief period of time because everything is very brief now, it
right?
seems like.
I'm not into that anymore. Yeah, I get it. So, your background, did you like study art or?
Yeah, oh, yes.
Yeah,
Very studious.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a master's in fine art. I went to my
Okay.
undergrad was in illustration. Um, and I was going to be a children's author, children's book illustrator,
Mhm.
or do comic books. And really, what it came down to was I wanted to do everything, so I did nothing. But I
Right.
mean, I didn't actually do nothing, but I did nothing. So, oh, oh,
Yeah.
there we go. I don't know what I just did there. Maybe
Oh,
my
you're fine. I could still hear you. So
um yeah, like I wasn't concentrated enough in any one area to really have a portfolio that was consistent. So I didn't get much illustration work. I did a lot of like weird punk rock bands for a while, and that was fun.
nice.
I like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, much like punk rock bands don't make a lot of money, the illustrators don't make a lot of money either.
Yeah.
um, so but yeah, I have an MFA. I did a lot of weird installation work for a while, and it was fun. Um, and so, yeah, no, I don't. Mostly, a lot of my work now is kind of like about commodity of space. Like, I have this much space, so I'm going to make this thing that's this big and do
Yeah,
watercolors and
as
stuff
far
like
as working on
that. Like, it's
paper.
like
Yeah.
if it's too big and it's out, then my daughter will start painting on it. For a little while,
Yeah.
she was doing it to me. It was really awesome. We used the same palette. That was a test. That was a testament to patience.
I have really instilled you do not touch each other's artwork without permission. You
We
need
definitely
that
don't touch each other's
consent.
artwork.
Right.
For the most part, that's been okay. I did have one commission that ended up being uh it wasn't pretty enough. It was in greens, and when it was done, it was in pinks.
I had I had to write a guy and I was like, look, because I'd already sent him the proof. I'm like, the foot of a small child that belongs to me went through the painting. I'm gonna have to redo it.
Sent a proof of one of the little plastic army men that I was doing, and it was ready. I needed to basically sign it, and then I came out the next day, and it had it was like blue and pink Sharpie, and it was like doing. It had like a dress on. It was pretty fantastic. The fellow was very patient and kind, so
Yeah,
which is nice.
it is nice. That's generally the case when something goes wrong, but there are other moments.
There always are. There always is the capability, anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was uh I was talking with my mother on the phone this morning, talking with my mom every day now,
Uh-huh.
on my way to work. And I told her I was going to be talking with you. I said, "Ah, one of my favorite artists from online. I'm going to have a
Oh
conversation with."
man.
And she's like, "Well, what does he make?" So I was telling a little bit about what you make. I was like, "But one of my favorite series that he ever did was this. He had these like little toilets that he was doing, and they were just fantastic. I loved them because every day I would see a new one, and I would just be chuckling about it like a half an hour later. It was fantastic.
do, do you know where those came from?
No, where did
Oh my god. So during the whole NFT explosion, all right, so
okay.
stay with me. I get hit up about a project. And if that project would have done what it was supposed to, uh, I would have been very comfortable, right? But it turns out these guys didn't really know what they were doing, and so I don't think the project ever went anywhere. But I got cut, and I got some severance pay. That was cool. And then for the project, I had requested some materials, and I wanted some 11 fight 14s to work on the images that they needed. And I'd worked on some of them, but instead of sending me that, they sent me 4x6 little canvas.
Oh,
I'm like, what am I going to do with all this? Because I had boxes and boxes. And so I was like, well, this is really like shitty situation. And so I started to draw toilets, and it made me laugh. And then I wasn't as annoyed, but so
well,
that's
I don't know if it was 6 years worth of art school or my mother's own sense of her own shitty situation currently, but she took the news that my one of my favorite series is that you've done was the toilets without a even a pause, just like, I can see where you might be friends with him, Michael. Yes.
it's Yeah, it's not the first time I painted a toilet, but
I
yeah,
have a photograph that one of my good friends did of a urinal over top of my
uh
toilet. So,
nice, nice.
it's within the ballpark of things that I find amusing. It's a
You
very
know what I
silly.
like? I think it was. You ever seen the Royal Tenenbaums?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember Owen Wilson's character? There was art on the background. It was wild, but one of
The
them, I
the
believe, was just like a
four-wheelers.
portrait. Huh, what's that?
There was the one with the four-wheelers.
There was
Oh,
that
awesome.
one, but then I think there was just a portrait of a tidy whitey.
Oh,
And
yes. Yes.
yeah, and
I remember this.
I'm like, that's high art.
Yeah, it's like a oh, shoot, was it Robert Dion? No. Oh, who was the fella that did the bathrobes?
Yeah,
It was the
uh,
whole series of it doing the abstract expressionist. Oh, I don't know.
yeah,
Doesn't
yeah, uh,
I did a series of hoodies like that for a while because
yeah.
that's all I wore.
Nice. So I'm always fascinated because you're not a hack like me. You went through a program to be
Oh,
an
oh,
artist.
time out, man. Let me tell you about going through university. I was the kid that, like, they would give us the assignment, and I would take it back to my desk, and I'd be working on it. And I mean, I now realize that I have ADHD. My brain goes everywhere all at once, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was just creative. Cool. Well, like, I guess I also have ADHD, or they're the same thing, or whatever. But whatever. Um,
Mhm. Well,
anyway,
yeah,
keeping to the rigid guidelines that somebody gave me for an assignment, maybe wasn't so great at it. So yeah, I had formal training, but I would take in sometimes like 6 or 7 projects for the one project because 'cause I'm like, "I don't think I did it right the first time. So I did these other ones. Are these more what you're looking for?" And, like and so I had, like, one professor that spoke to me when I was leaving Syracuse, which is where I went for my undergrad, um, and he says, "Michael, your work's not always very good, but you always work really hard. And I have faith that you're going to figure it out one of these
mm,
days." Which I took as like the greatest thing that I heard the entire time that I was there. I'm like, what more can anybody ask for but to figure it out one day? If we all figured it out one day, wouldn't we all be content and happy?
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think I've got
That's
pieces of figuring. I think the only thing that I figured out since then is that, yeah, you figure it out for like March 28th of 2013, but March 28th of 2013 has nothing to do with what is it today? Like you just like I figured it out then, but it's not that anymore. I got no idea anymore.
yeah. I
It's
don't
something
know
else.
it. Yeah. At what point I just thought it doesn't matter. What matters is that you do it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think credit to Fugazi, Ian McKay. You ever
Mhm.
you ever seen him? There's they're older ones. I think he probably still does it, but like he would just go to a college and he'd say, "Ask me question." And so somebody asked him about success, and he said, "Well, there's my band Fugazi. To us, success was that we got into a room and recorded. Everything after that, and yeah, I saw that a long time ago. And I was like, he's right, you know. He's just, I don't know, what's it matter? Like, I'm making this stuff. Here it is. I'm gonna make more, and it makes me happy, and it makes some other people happy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. It's like
And
there's an Ani DeFranco song where she's talking about like we used to make a recording as in a recording of an event of making a recording. I'm probably brutalizing her lyric, but like talking about like it was like the act of making was an event in and of itself, and it didn't need a witness in order for it to have validity. Basically, was the nature of the song, which I always thought was really cool because like I don't know, I how much of your artwork is like not online. Like I like so much of my stuff is just like sitting in a sketchbook that like nobody ever really sees. It's just there for me. Like, and it was like important for me to do it. But, like
mhm.
I it doesn't need to see an audience for it to matter.
Yeah, yeah. I especially with commissions, I don't always photograph those.
Oh
So
yeah, I please. Some of them just need to go. And not even because they're bad. Well, then it's not because they're bad. It's just like I didn't do this for me. Like I
yeah,
did this to like satisfy a problem, or maybe problems a bad word for it, but satisfy a set of parameters.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't do it on purpose. It's just like I'm trying to follow through and I forget. So they're just out there.
I'm really bad at mailing things.
Yeah,
That's part of the ADHD thing that I've figured out. Like once I've gotten through the part of actually making it, I'm just like, oh, I did it. And then it's like sitting there a week later, I'm like, and I didn't mail it. What did I
so
do?
did you get a diagnosis or
Oh no, not yet. I'm actually waiting on it, but yeah, I've read
dude?
the literature, and I checked too many boxes.
Well, yeah, for me it was during COVID. I was I don't know, I was like I need to talk to someone. And so he was like, "Well, here, let me read something to you." He's like, "Well, you aced it. You have ADHD." And then he's like, and that was a long time ago, actually. He's like, "But when you go see your doctor, mention it." And I procrastinated on that. I've been called that all my life, but I thought it's just a cute thing that people say to say you're an airhead, you know, like, oh, he's ADHD. And then, um, so, they were like, okay, well, let's treat it. And yeah, it was powerful. My mom told a story to me that day, and I listened all the way through. And her stories are long. And that was, I'm like, and it's not that I don't listen, but my mind will go everywhere. But I was able to follow her story, I think, the way normal people do.
Yeah, neurotypical folks. Yeah, I have my therapist has gone through the screenings with me, and I'm like, I I well, I'm a procrastinator. I just like
Well,
got my PCP like on
yeah,
paper like 2 weeks ago, so I'm waiting to go see them, and I have the paperwork to go take to them.
yeah.
And hopefully they actually accept the paperwork and aren't like, we need to do our own screening. But I don't know, medical world.
The,
But
the
it's just
physician said it'll be life changing. And I laughed. But I was like, it has been. Like, um, and the thing is, like, at first, it's so powerful because it's just an awareness you don't have. But like with anything, you get an immunity. And so at some point, it becomes more about kind of regulating. Like, I'll take it, and that word regulation, you know, that it gives me balance throughout the days when I need it. Especially, I have a lot going on. So with fatherhood and then choosing to be an artist and be a father. Um,
What's that like?
the which part?
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because, and part of the reason I'm so adamant is the love of art, but being somebody that I was told a lot to get a real job, that what I was thinking about doing was not a real occupation. You know, I had to clock in somewhere, which just doesn't work for me. I'm not. I'd be terrible. I'd be terrible at clocking in. I was the short times that I tried it, and it wasn't very long. And so I look at my kids, and of course, this stuff is genetic. And I think about, they'll have these dreams, and people will tell them the same thing, maybe. And I want to be able to say, like, look, this is what I was told. This is the absurd thing that I did for a living. You go do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's not self-destructive, it doesn't hurt you, it makes you happy, do it.
Yeah.
Figure it out. And that's what fuels me the most, which makes me laugh. Because prior, I was without kids for 37 years. And all I ever heard from other artists with kids, wait till you have kids, then it's over. You won't do art anymore. You won't do it as much. It's because you don't have kids. That's why you're so prolific. I'm like, no, it's because I'm insane. And I embrace that. And I will go down making some kind of art. And that I feel is my purpose.
I found, so in the last year, I've ended up with my kids full time, just been single dad full time,
Yeah.
which is awesome, and also like exhausting, but like it's awesome. And I mean, my productivity has certainly changed, but I'm still always puttering, I've gotten a lot better at ukulele in the last year and instruments, and so I'm like thinking about.
It's cool you post that.
Well, I enjoy it, and I don't. Sometimes it's just a challenge to be able to get something up that I'm like, all right, cool. Like this is where I'm at right now, and like I'll be able to go back and see this. So
yeah.
But yeah, like I guess the biggest change for me with creating with kids isn't so much that I don't create, because I definitely do, but like there was like this ego driven thing when I was single. Like I make, that's what I do. I make, and it's better. It's better. It is, because I make, and it's important. And now I'm like, I make, it's what I do. It may or may not be important. I mean, I think it's important. You think whatever you think is important. That's cool. But please don't talk to me about the stock exchange. But but like,
is that your next series? Is a stock exchange?
I just don't feel like I have to have everything out there to prove to people that I'm doing something. Like I don't need the proof anymore. Like I just don't care. Just like whatever. I'm doodle a ton in the sketchbook, and that's fine for me. And I'll make this thing that other people see. Maybe I'll make. I mean, I've only really been sharing the dailies this year because I find it I find it really fun, especially on X, I guess it is now, but
Yeah,
Twitter,
yeah.
whatever, the Bird app. Um, I've been doing an image of a 79 every day,
Uh-huh.
and I ask, "Who am I?"
Yeah.
And it's just such a fun thing to me to see people guessing who it is. And I think to myself, like, is the art me making it? Is the art the memory? Is it like a communal art piece where we're all like working on it together? Because like, which is more art? Like me making this thing, or these people like trying to figure out who it is? Some of the answers are real, some of them are not real. They're trying to piece images together. Like there's something about that community action of that piece that's so much more powerful than like any painting that I've made that somebody's bought that's on their wall.
I mean, that's what got me making videos. At first, it was survival. Now, I started early on and I would make videos. I played with live. But during COVID, I was unemployed because there was no art markets, there was no gallery shows. I was a physical person in the physical world selling physical art. And then that was gone. And so I made them out of necessity. But the more, and still, the more I put out there, the more like I get that connection. And somebody like said the other day on something I was watching that most people that make content think that people want to hear their story. And he said, no, people want to hear how they connect to your story. And I was like, damn, like that's very true, you know, because think about the art that you like, the music that you like, the clothes, anything. We, it's just who we are as animals, as humans. Like we gravitate towards something because we feel a connection generally. So, yeah, I thought that was deep. And yeah, so it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the, I don't know, it's that whole concept of, I've been trying to wrap my head around it. And I'll write and I'll ramble and paint and try to think it out. But our existence as artists, you know, it's just different. We have this ability to make this content, to make those connections much more powerfully than it's ever been available to a visual artist. You know, crazy. And
Would it would all of our introverted, like miserable artist lineage have lasted longer with Instagram?
oh yeah,
Suddenly
think
it's not
about
just
that.
letters to Theo. Suddenly it's letters to Cleo. No, it's letters to everybody else.
Or yeah, it would have just changed the landscape. Maybe some of those artists never would have like made it. You know,
Uh,
um, and then others that got buried would.
yeah.
So it's a very interesting game. Like I kind of tried to articulate it a few times where, you know, being an artist, it becomes almost our existence as we put it out there. That's all a part of it. Like I think when I think about this content, it's an extension of the work. And yeah, I don't know. Things I hyper focus on.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a big statement in that moment when you realize that the work isn't just the panel in front of you or the paper in front of you or whatever. It's not confined to here. When you suddenly start to think about a viewer, first just maybe a viewer seeing the painting, but then a viewer becomes something very different when they're interacting with it, right? Like they're not. It's not like you're watching it on TV or something. Like you're moving
Right.
with your hands, or you're zooming in on it if you like it or whatever. Like even thinking about that, like people zoom in on your paintings sometimes. Like that's really odd. Like, yo, you're distorting my painting, and that's kind of cool.
It is. Well, it's no different at a museum. Uh, is it the docent? I'm always told to get the hell away from the painting because I'm, except in our, sharing, people get to, and
I, when
yeah,
when
because
I
I'm
watch
like my
shows
face
now,
is on
I
the
think
painting.
about I lived in Seattle for like the early part of the 2000s, and there was at Sam they had a traveling exhibit of Van Gogh paintings, which I like when I was younger, I did not care for Van Gogh. He just wasn't one of the artists that I connected with.
Yeah,
And then the show was up and I was like, well, I should go see it. I mean, everybody talks about it. I should at least see it. And I got there and I was like, oh, but I don't know what was up with the security because I know I got inches from those paintings. I was like staring
yeah,
at sculpted
yeah,
poppies in the field and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's why. But I don't know if I would like think that Van Gogh was as cool if I had to like, abide by security.
yeah,
But yeah, it was fascinating up close. I'm like, oh, that's impasto. I suddenly understand. Yes.
yeah. That that whole notion of I've heard it with Basquiat the most. People are like, I don't get it. I'm like, have you seen one in person?
Oh, you don't
Like,
even
because
need to see them in person.
it's
He's so
different.
fascinating anyway, but yes.
Oh, you don't like it?
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I love
Oh,
it. It's
man.
fascinating. I think I love Basquiat and Herring like hand in hand. I love them as like a fascinating, like not really duo. I like to think of them at the same time, just because
Right.
they're like counterparts in my head.
Yeah.
This like super super rough, sketchy, like I can see your love of Basquiat in some of your paintings. Like
Sure.
it's there, it's visceral. And then Herring was just like, I'm gonna take this line. It's gonna be so perfect. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be so emotive at the same time, even though it's just like this like weird little square character. That's how I don't know. I think they kind of just speak back and forth to one another, and I really like that conversation.
Well, they're both so emotional. And because I started in photography, and so painting was always something where I saw people like, you know, and that didn't bring joy to my heart. Like, God, that looks boring. Right. And then I collaborated with a painter. She wanted to take images of mine and then add paint. And then one of our early sessions, she put materials in my hand. And so I just started. And that was exciting. I was moving things and this was just emotion. And so I think it was like a few days later, I went to an art store and I'm with my friend, and he said, that's like $200 worth of painting supplies. What are you doing? He's like, I'm going to paint. And that was the end of my photography career. Like,
I think
well, I say that, but lately I've been, I'm starting this project.
nice.
And
Wow.
so it's all expression. is what I'm finding.
Is.
And it
I
doesn't matter.
I was so stuck. I think 15 years ago, I was so stuck. But I I was thinking in one of these things you said you were thinking about how like technology moves like
Yeah.
exponentially, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but everything does, right? Like when I was 25, I'm like, well, I'm painting this and I'm getting ready for this show and I'm doing this and that and the other thing. And I have all this stuff that I have to do. And now I'm like, ooh, there's all this stuff that I can do,
Right.
right? Like, I don't have to do it that way, and I don't have to do it that way, and I can become an expert at this or an expert at this, and how can I do this so that it's me? And I
Yeah.
think there's something like really liberating about getting older, and you're just like, I really don't care if I'm glad that you like this, and that's nice, but like if you didn't, I still would have made it. And I'd still make something tomorrow. So it's just like something like
So yeah. It was I was in my 20s, but I would go to photography workshops in Santa Fe. And so the first thing they'd do is they'd show you some films of photographers. And one of them was Chuck O'Rear. So he was probably in his 70s at that point. So they show us his work, and then they have him narrating. It's like this gruff voice. And he says, somebody can say, that painting sucks, something like that. And I try not to cuss because I have kids and they repeat things, but he's like, I don't give a shit. I'm still going to make it. And so as a young man watching that, it's like, yeah. And I always leaned into things when I heard things like that. Even even in music, like punk rock especially. That
mm,
that was that was my youth, like absorbing these things. And so I think I never really gave much thought to what other people thought. Like which I'm glad. And I don't know how that happened.
well, I'm glad for you because
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I was very
I see it in other people.
I had to do it a certain way so that people would okay, I have to be consistent, I have to build my audience, and I
It yeah. It's
I
what we're
was a
fed.
member of a gallery when I was 27, and the like one of the old hats pulled me aside. I just put up my show, and I sold like 3 paintings, and I was like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
Somebody bought one of the funky ones too that I had like things pieced together and stuff. I'm like, "Awesome." And he's like, "So you need to really start fostering your clients." I'm like, "Fostering my clients? What on earth are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, you need to write them letters and you need to, just develop a relationship with them." I'm like, I can barely keep the relationship that I have with my girlfriend together. I don't know how I'm supposed to have a relationship with these people too. What are you talking about? Um,
Yeah.
and so, and it just has me thinking about being consistent and yeah, and developing relationships and now I'm suddenly starting to see like it's more like it's what you were talking about, like making that
Mhm.
connection, right? Like the
Yeah.
connection is developing that space for people to experience something and bring their own experience into it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like your experience and their experience meet. Um, and I'm just like when Grizz and I argue over which Santos painting is better, Paul's cover or check your head. I'm like, no, check your head is definitely better.
Oh, that's funny.
It was an actual argument. Sorry.
Shout out Grits. Claimed
Bebop.
by audio issues again. So, Mighty Lark, love his work. Check him out at mightylark.bigcartel.com. I know him on IG as decaf_supernova. Awesome conversation. We'll have to bring him back, and I'll have to figure out this audio situation. But on that note, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.
Bebop.